So good morning, everybody. Um, we were trying to come up with a title for this class, and you know, the theme behind this is don't give everything away. But basically, we're looking at converting buyer prospects that reach out to you about a property that you have listed. And so, let me get into this. What you will learn today is the importance of an effective inquiry response. You want to be able to capture these leads, but you also don't want to waste your time on people that are not serious or willing to work with you. You want to find out how to get prospects information, how to rise above the competition, how to speak to prospects, and how to protect yourself and your seller, which is so important. So, the first secret to this is do not rush out and meet a prospect. I've seen it in every market. An agent gets really excited to respond to a call from a prospective buyer on their listing, and they hop in the car and they rush out to meet the prospect. Um, that's the worst thing that you can do. You know nothing about them. You know nothing about their motivation. Are they a serious buyer? You know nothing about their qualifications. You don't know if they already have an agent. So many prospects call you because they don't want to bother their agent because their agent is out golfing or their agent is, spending time with their kids and they don't want to bother them. So they want to bother you instead. And this is the key thing. You wouldn't send your child across town to meet a total stranger. Well, you know what? You're still your parents' child and they don't like it either. So don't rush out to meet the prospect. There's reasons for a system to handle property inquiries. Case in point, this was an Arkansas realtor, got a call on her listing. She went out and met this stranger at her listing and didn't come home that night. And the next day, she was found murdered in the house that she was showing. And so you don't know anything about these people. Do not rush out to meet them. Your safety is foremost a priority. Another reason is time is money. I one time went out, this is when we had floor time, and I got a call on a property that was in the next county. And it took me well over an hour to get there. And I went and met these buyers there. It was like a 3 o'clock appointment. I got there at quarter to three. I turned on all the lights. I opened all the drapes. And at 3 o'clock, and this property sat on acreage, and there was quite a bit of front yard. And at 3 o'clock, a car pulls up in front of the property, looks at the property, and then drives off. And by 3:40, these buyers didn't show. And I called them and they go, yeah, we stopped by. We didn't like the house. So we just kept going. So now I had another hour or more to drive back. Time is money in this business. Don't rush out to meet people. You are also obligated to your seller to bring qualified buyers to the house, not just anybody. So until you've qualified them, you really have no business showing the property. There was a time that, and I think it still happens with very expensive homes, but there was a time when anything over 1 million required a letter of introduction from the bank before you were able to show the property. It keeps you compliant. by not rushing over there because you have to treat everybody equally. So unless you have a presentation put together to meet buyers properly, you could be risking your license. And also, it protects the sellers and their home and their possessions. Yes, this is a people business, but it's your business. It's your life. It's your obligation to your client, and it's your license. All these things are on the line. So have a system in place. You have to treat everyone the same. And that's in your license, and that's in the code of ethics. You have to treat everyone the same. It's a fair housing issue. It keeps you professional. Did I mention it's a fair housing issue? It keeps you consistent with everyone you meet. And lastly, most importantly, it's a fair housing issue. So Anna was one of my agents. This is I have this print, and it's one of my favorite prints. It's by Grace Slick from Jefferson Airplane. She's also an artist. Anyway, Anna was an agent in my office, and she got a call from a woman about her listing. And she said to the woman, she says, well, before I can show you the house, I need you to come into the office because I have disclosures and different things to talk about. So the woman comes into the office and they go in the conference room, and this woman pulls out a piece of paper and she says, I make, combined with my husband, I make 150,000 a year. We have $5,000 in monthly debt, and we have $20,000 in credit card debt. And Anna says, well, I need you to meet with my lender before and talk to them. Now, you're not obligated to use them, but I just need to make sure that the numbers work for this house before I take you over. And the woman says, oh, I can't do that without my husband, and left. Very next day, she gets a call from another woman. And Anna said, I need you to come into the office, same property. And the woman shows up and, no kidding, pulls out a piece of paper with the exact same information. And this woman was of a different race. And Anna said the same thing. I need you to meet with my lender. She's available down the hall here. And just to make sure that you qualify for the house. And the woman says, oh, I can't do anything without my husband. And she gets up and leaves. The third day, she gets another call. And as soon as she says to that woman, I need you to come in, the woman says, I don't have time, and hung up. The interesting thing was their phone numbers were almost identical. And what we figured out was it was the testers from the real estate commission. They were testing to see how Anna was handling her prospect calls. So we don't see these testers. We don't know where or when they show up. They can come to the open house. They can come, like what happened to Anna, and they don't have to tell you they're a tester. So be careful with how that you treat everybody. There was another situation with a company called Pardo Real Estate. They were finally acquired by Coldwell Banker, but it was a very boutique real estate company. Basically, all the agents are now at Washington Fine. But they had a situation down on Capitol Hill where, a woman walks in and said, I'm interested in this rental. And the agent took her immediately to see the house. And the next day, a woman from a different race walks in, says, I'd like to see this rental. And the agent says, I don't do rentals. Um, and they were hit with a fair housing violation and they were cleared. The fair housing violation was front page Washington Post. The retraction was page 10, bottom left corner. Um, but they were cleared because it was two different agents, and the agent that did not want to show this rental property did not do rentals and said, I can get you somebody else, but I can't show it to you. And it was misinterpreted. But and with rentals, I'll just say, if you show one rental, you show them all. You cannot discriminate. And you can't even show a rental to your nephew if you don't do rentals. It's all or any or none. So how do you handle sign ads or sign calls, ad calls? I, when I was selling, I had a separate phone line for those calls. So my sign had the separate number, the ads had a separate number. And when people called on my properties, it went straight to a voicemail. And my message was, Hi, thanks for calling. Please let me know what property you're calling on, what your phone number is, and email, and I will definitely get back to you. Why did I do this? Because if you get calls, they're 9 times out of 10 at the most inappropriate time. You'll get a call when you're in the middle of in the middle of a class. You'll get a call while you're out with another client. You'll get a call when you're spending time with your family. You want to be able to focus on that call, and calling them back is a lot better. It also eliminates the tire kickers because they're not going to leave a message. So, how about that for filtering calls? And you're getting the serious calls only. I stumbled on this idea by half, by accident because um, I was at Remax at the time and they closed the office that I was in. And I had just bought signs and marketing materials with that number, and they were going to just, turn it off. So I bought that number from them, and that was my voicemail. It'll capture the serious buyer's information. It will notify you when prospects call because you can have an alert in there. And it allows you to call them back when you're focused. That's the key thing. One of my pet peeves when I was a manager was I'd be teaching a class to new agents. And inevitably, there was somebody's phone would ring and they'd get up and they go, This is Manuel speaking. How can I help you? And now this person has disrupted the whole class as he was walking out because he was trying to be available and give service. That's not service. That's disruption. You're focused on the class. You can't be a light switch and now focus on your seller's property. You need to get into an abundance mindset before speaking to the prospect. A lack mindset will make you desperate for the sale. And when you're desperate for the sale, they can smell that. I one time was working in the office on the computer as an agent, and a guy walks in, sits next to me, and he goes, I'm buying that motorcycle I've always wanted. I said, Oh, did you just have a settlement? He said, No, no. I said, Did you, ratify a contract? He goes, No, no. I said, What? He goes, I showed this house and it's perfect for them. He was already spending the money. That's an abundance mindset. You don't want to be too accommodating. And I mean that in a very nice way, because when you're too accommodating, they will run you around like crazy and they will not end up buying from you. You want to stay in control of the process, meaning you call the shots and you never tell them what to do. You give them options. In everything you do, you give them options. Well, we can go this way or we can go that way. How would you like to proceed? You don't want to call these people back when you're not in the proper mindset. You know, you have a deal that just fell apart and you're just grumbling mad. That's not when you call the prospect back and say, "What do you want about this house?" You want to have the information of the listing handy in front of you. You know, have the full MLS printout with you at all times because they may ask you a question that you may have to look up, and also have information on other listings that are available, that if there's something about your listing that doesn't appeal to them, you can say, well, let me tell you about this other house I could show you. And basically, you need to be prepared to answer all questions. Before you call them back, you need to visualize how you want the call to go. You need to get into the feeling that this is going to be a sale for you. That's the energy that you want to convey through the phone or in person or however, but you want to be in that energy when you call them back. And when you call them back, don't give away any information without charging them a price. Let me say that again. When you're calling them back, do not give them any information without charging them a fee. And the fee you charge them is a question for a question. How many bedrooms is in this house? Well, this is a 4-bedroom house. How many bedrooms were you looking for? It's got to be a tennis match. If they're asking you questions, you have the right to ask them questions. Because the more you get them talking, the more they will start liking you. It's kind of like dating. You know, you walk up to a person at a party that really interests you and you go, "Hi, you know, I'm a realtor with EXP and I sell X number of houses a year. And I've lived in this area." And you walk away and you go, "God, I think they like me." And the other person's going, "Who is that?" But if you went to that person and said, "Tell me about yourself. What do you do? Where do you work? What do you like to do for fun?" And you say nothing about you, that person's going to think, "Wow, what an interesting person I just met." Same is true with getting information from houses. You don't want to show the property if they have a buyer broker agreement with another agent. That would be like another agent talking to your seller. That's not appropriate. If they have a signed buyer brokerage agreement, and that's the question to ask, do you have have you signed a buyer brokerage agreement? Because if you say, "Do you have an agent?" Everybody has an agent. That doesn't mean they have a relationship with that agent. So you ask them, "Do you have a signed buyer brokerage agreement?" You do. I would love to show you this house, but it's more appropriate that you have your agent take you. Well, they're playing golf. Well, that won't last all week. So, have them take you. Never meet them at the property first. You don't know these people. You saw what happened to the realtor in Arkansas, and she's not the only one. Never let your fear of losing be greater than your will to win. That's so powerful. Because when you're in a fear of losing, you're coming from a lack mindset. And you never want to be in a lack mindset. So, um, Rick was an agent in my office when I was selling. And Rick had gone out and shown a listing from the office to an agent, to a prospect who had a buyer brokerage agreement and with another realtor. He never asked the question. And this person was really interested in the house. And Rick put him in touch with a lender, and he wrote out a whole contract for him, sent it to this buyer, everything. And the buyer never responded. And then the listing agent of the property got a call from another agent with another brokerage saying, we uh, we have an offer on your property. And Rick happened to overhear that and asked the listing agent, what's the name on the contract? And it turned out to be the name of the person that he showed the house to. Um, that contract was ratified. And when Rick went to file arbitration, the first question asked was, did you inquire if they had a buyer brokerage agreement with another realtor? And he said no. And they said, well, you don't really have a leg to stand on. If you're going to waste time, don't do it with strangers. Do it with the ones you love. Handling open houses. I recommend holding two open houses, one for the neighbors and one for the prospects. And why do you think this is? Because the neighbors want to see the house and they're going to come through when you have prospects in the house. And these prospects are going to hear what the neighbors say. And I've had it happen where, a neighbor says, oh, this is the house that was a rental years ago and they got busted for making meth in the basement. And you don't want prospects hearing that kind of stuff. And so, the house had been professionally uh, resolved. There was no more evidence of this, but you don't want neighbors talking. So by having two open houses, you can focus on neighbors and maybe pick up another listing and then focus on the buyers. I would door knock 50 homes around the open house, inviting the neighbors to that special open house. I would hand out a flyer to them about the property. And if they're not home, you can leave it in the door or in the mailbox. Ask them, when do they plan on selling? This is the perfect time. You're prospecting. When one house sells, there's always another one that comes up for sale down the street. Find it. Have a sign-in sheet or cards. Don't let anybody in that doesn't sign in. You are responsible for that house, for their belongings while you're holding the house open. If they have a signed buyer broker agreement, get the name of their agent, because then you want to talk to the agent and sell the agent on them buying this house. And if you have any doubt about their honesty, get their license plate number. Again, you're responsible. But if they refuse to sign in, don't let them in. And it's funny, in all my years of real estate, I've only turned away two people who refused to sign in. And I said, I totally understand that you want this, but I said, I'm responsible for this house, for these, the sellers are holding me liable for anything. And therefore, if I don't know who's in this house, I can't let you in. And if you want to call your agent and come back with your agents, we would welcome you back. But unless you sign in, please come back another time. And I've said to people also, put a DC next to your name, don't call. And I won't follow up with you, but I just need to report to my seller who's been in their house. When you sell your house, I'm sure you want to know who's been in it. So, um, and I've never had a problem other than two people. So when you have prospects coming to the open house, you ask them, do you have a signed buyer broker agreement with an agent? How long have you been looking? When do you want to move in? What's the most important feature you need in your new home? Do you currently own a home? Do you need to sell it first? And this is the money-making question that nobody asks at an open house. And you ask it as they're walking out. And the question is, do you want to buy this house? So simple. Do you want to buy this house? And it does two things for you. First of all, you're there to sell this house. Ask for the order. That's your job. A lot of people can't decide unless they're asked. And secondly, they start talking. They will just blab away because that question catches them off guard. And you just let them talk. They'll say things like, oh, we just started looking. Then it gives you the opportunity to say, well, I offer a complimentary buyer presentation with a very valuable buyer's guide, referred to my class on working with buyers. And it will really benefit you in your search for the right house. And so you may get an appointment from that. When they say we live in the neighborhood, I love this one. I say, do you enjoy living here? Oh, yes. Do you think this was a good investment? Oh, absolutely. Our price has gone up through the roof. Well, how about considering this house as an investment property? We're thinking of selling. We just wanted to see what's on the market. Great. I offer a complimentary um, seller presentation, no obligation, and we can meet at your convenience, and I can teach you what the market is like and what you need to do to get top dollar from your house. But if you don't ask, you want to buy this house, they're not going to volunteer any of this information. So that is the biggest, and they laugh and they because nobody else has ever asked them that question. My friend Mike, Mike and I were arch rivals when we were selling real estate. We were always after the same listings. And when I got out of sales, Mike called me one day and said, it's no fun anymore. You're not out there competing against me. But Mike told me the story that he was doing an open house and he had three unrepresented buyers that at the open house, because he asked the question, do you want to buy this house? At the open house, they said, yes, we want to buy this. Can you help us? And so what he did is he always carried in his briefcase 3 to 4 sets of sales contracts. And he went and he handed them paper from a notepad. And he said he put one in the dining room, he put one in the basement, he put one in the upstairs office. And he said, I don't want you to speak to each other. I want you to write to each other, husband and wife, write what you want to offer, when you want to settle, what concessions you want, but don't say it verbally so that the other two buyers in the house can hear you. He went around, took down his open signs, and came back. And then he manually wrote out 3 contracts. One of them won. The second one, he sold them another house, and the third one went off on their own. Be prepared. This can happen to anyone. Because of Mike's story, I always carried contracts in the car. But and a good recommendation is if you haven't handwritten a contract, do it. Because typing it on the computer, you just see the blanks. But do one by hand to really understand the contract. So if you want to be a top producer, you have to act like a top producer. Mike was acting like a top producer. You want to think like a top producer. This house is going to sell. You want to dress professionally. You want to talk like a top producer. You want to be a top producer before you are a top producer. I mean, look around when you meet new realtors. There are some that carry themselves as if they've already sold 50 houses. It's because they are in the top producer mindset. If you want to be successful, you need total focus to push your limits and give your best. Always focused on how you can be better. Handling electronic inquiries. You do the same as the ad signs and the sign calls. You respond when you're focused. You ask questions for each one of theirs. You have similar properties on hand, especially if your listing is already sold, because a lot of times, the internet's a little behind. And so they call you and your property is sold. Well, guess what? Here's one just like it. What would you like to know about it? Safety precautions. Always have the first meeting in a public place. You can meet them at Starbucks. You can meet them at, at one of those office centers, wherever it is. Never meet them at the property. If the house is vacant, take somebody with you. Never go to a vacant home when meeting a buyer for the first time. Have a safe word that you can tell someone who checks on you. So you could call somebody and say, look, I'm going to go show 123 Main Street. And if I'm uncomfortable with these buyers, I'm going to call and ask you to check on the Smith loan to see if we have approval. That means I'm in trouble. And carry pepper spray. I had a police officer come to my office for a sales meeting, and he talked about safety. And he says, you don't want to carry a gun because he says the majority of police officers that are killed with a gun, it was their gun that got wrestled away from them. He says pepper spray is the best way to go. So Lauren was a coworker of mine, and she got a call on one of her vacant listings. And she went out and met this buyer there, knowing better that she shouldn't have. And it was a big house in Potomac. And they're going through the whole house. And they come to the basement, and there's a hot tub, working hot tub with water. And the buyer was a single man. The buyer says, oh, I love hot tubs. Let me try this out. And he starts stripping naked to get into the hot tub. Lauren freaked out and went screaming out of the house. And when she ran out the house, there was a tree with a low branch, and she smacked her head. Now she's bleeding down the side of her face. And she can't call anyone because her purse and phone were on the kitchen counter. And she was scared for her life. Well, turned out the guy was just being funny. He wasn't going to hop in the hot tub. He just pretended like he was. But now she had a gash. She had to go to the emergency room. Zillow leads, realtor.com, homes.com. Most of these leads start out, are buyers that are just starting out. People go to the internet thinking, wait, what's out there? Maybe we should buy a house. Most of these require a lot of nurturing over a long period of time. The percentage of leads that turn to sales are low. It's a numbers game, but you're going to invest a lot of time to find the ones that will pay off. And most of the leads go to the agent that pays the most for leads. One of my agents looked on Zillow for her listing, found it. And when she clicked on the button that says call the agent, she got somebody else. It didn't ring to her phone. And when she called Zillow to find out why that is, they said, oh, your name appears at the very bottom corner in really small print. We give the leads to the agents that pay us the money to get leads. Isn't it nice that they take your hard work and profit from it? This is why you don't want to give away information on the houses, because you become another Zillow. You want to charge them question for question. Secret number 5 is you have to win the day. And it starts when you wake up in the morning. So when you wake up, do not look at your phone, because there may be a message there that is going to totally ruin your day for you. You don't want to turn on the TV. TV is programming. They have you believing that a comedy show based on other people's misery is funny. They have you believing that every news story is breaking news. I sold a house to a uh, the anchor for local anchor for CBS, and I asked her, I go, why do you do that? And she said, because we have to be the first to report something so that we can then go to our advertisers and say, advertise with us because we were first. So it's more important to be first than to be right. And she goes, I didn't say that, but I'm not denying it. Do not read your emails. You want to mentally plan how you want your day to go. So before you even get out of bed, just lay there and visualize how you want your day to go. See the results that you want to achieve. Today, I'm going to ratify a contract. It's going to feel so good. These people are going to be so happy with my efforts. And you want to be in touch with the feeling when it all goes your way. Feeling is the secret because feeling is your body's interpretation of the level of vibration you're on. And you want to be in a high vibration level. Looking at your phone, turning on the TV lowers your vibration. But mentally planning your day raises your vibration. Then you want to write down, and this is where you get out of bed. You want to write down 10 things you're grateful for. 5 that have already happened, and 5 you want to have happen. So it can be as simple as I'm so happy and grateful now that I woke up from a wonderful night's sleep to a beautiful sunny day. I'm so happy and grateful now that I sold my listing on Elm Street. Whatever it is. And the 5 things that you want to have happen, you write them as if they have happened. And you mix the 10 up so that it seems like they've all happened. You want to write out your goal statement. Napoleon Hill talks about this in the book Think and Grow Rich. That every day you need to write out your goal statement and you write it out in your non-dominant hand because writing is more powerful than anything else. It's to get into your subconscious mind. And when you do it with a non-dominant hand, it goes even deeper. Typing is mechanical. It does nothing for you, but you need to be writing. And then you write your new paradigm statement 100 times. And a paradigm statement is, how do you want to be different? How do you want to improve yourself? What is the habit you no longer want? Write it the way you want it to be. So if you say your paradigm is you have a hard time getting out of bed in the morning, then your paradigm statement would be, I'm so happy and grateful now that I wake up full of energy and ready to tackle the day, and nothing can stop me. You write that out 100 times. That seems like a lot, but it goes fast. And that's how you get into your subconscious mind to change your limiting beliefs. You never get a chance to make a second first impression. That's why you need to be on top of your game. Ursula, sweet Ursula, we lost her to cancer, but whenever we had an office party, at the end of the day, I always walked around. I had took pride being a manager, and I always walked around the office before I left and pushed in all the chairs. And whenever we had a party and I went to Ursula's desk to push in the chair, she always had an extra cookie or cupcake under a napkin to save for later. But anyway, Ursula, I walked by her desk one day and she was on the phone talking to a prospect. And I heard her say, call me anytime this weekend. I have nothing planned. And after she hung up, I called her in. I go, Ursula, they will abuse you when they know they can they can control your timing. You want to be precise. You want to say, listen, Saturday, I can show you this property at 10 or at 3. Which one is best? Even if you have nothing planned. And they go, well, 2 o'clock would really work best for us. And then you can come back and say, tell you what, I can change things around. I can make 2 o'clock happen. But if you say, call me, I'll be available anytime, it, it, it won't happen. Trust me on that. You need to shift your limiting beliefs. So you need to stop these habits. Stop being too available. You call your doctor, and you can't even call them anymore. You have to write them through their portal, and they will respond to you in their time. They won't drop everything to respond to you. So you don't want to be too available, because being too available says you're not a good salesperson because you're not busy. You want to stop giving everything away. You want something in return. This is valuable information that they want. You want to stop taking shortcuts. Shortcuts don't pay off. In fact, they cause problems. You want to stop all negative beliefs. There's the law of polarity that says everything has an equal and an opposite. Equal is if it's 2.5 feet from the floor to the top of the table, it's 2.5 feet from the top of the table to the floor. It can't be any other way. If you say, I can't, well, the polar opposite of it is, I can. When you say, I can't, you start attracting all the supporting thoughts why you can't. But if you stop the negative and say, I can do this, you will start attracting all the thoughts necessary to perform that function, that step, that what you want to achieve. So stop negative beliefs and switch them to positive. And stop all destructive habits. A common one is you get into the office and you pour yourself a cup of coffee and you go to the admin and you ask about her weekend, and then you stop at another agent's desk and you talk about you know, the baseball game last night, and then you go to your desk and you get on the computer and you start looking at houses for no specific client. And now you've wasted half your morning, if not more. The best thing to do is when you end the day, you write out 6 things that you want to accomplish the next day. The reason I say 6 is because if you do more, you won't do any. If you do less, you won't do as much. 6 seems to be the magic number. 6 things that you want to accomplish. So when you walk in, you pour yourself a cup of coffee and you sit down at your desk and you start tackling item number 1. There's a lot of training courses out there and a lot of coaching programs available, but it's up to you not only to learn this material, but also to apply it. You know, education has really shifted over the years. You know, in school, we were given homework, we were given tests, we were given lab assignments. We really dove into this material. But now, just like today, we're just sitting in, learning something new, but all you did was become aware of it. This is an awareness class. This is awareness of what's possible. But knowledge without implementation is wasted potential. It's mere information, most of which gets pulled out at a cocktail party. It's a wasted opportunity. It's simply intellectual entertainment. It's a delusion. You think you're smarter. It's a burden on your mind to have all this information that you're not using. Action is the bridge. The true challenge lies not in acquiring knowledge, but in the application to create growth, change, and most of all, income. If you don't implement any of these ideas that you're learning, you're not going to have any different results than you had before you came to class. Decision is the first step. Decision or lack of them are responsible for the breaking or making of many careers. Think about that. You just need to make a decision. I'm going to start doing this. And then take action. The commitment is the bridge between knowledge and implementation. It is the mental and emotional dedication required to turn potential into power. While knowledge provides the what and how, commitment provides the why and the sustained effort needed to follow through. Napoleon Hill said, "There may be no heroic connotation to the word persistence, but the quality is the character of man, what carbon is to steel." My mentor, Bob Proctor, read the chapter on persistence out loud every day for the entire month of November every year. The rest of the year, he read 1 chapter a day of this book for 64 years. When he was given the book in 1961, he was making $6,000 a year, and he owed $9,000. After studying the book, not reading, studying the book, his income jumped from $9,000 to $125,000 in 1 year. And in 5 years, he was making $1 million. And he did it by cleaning floors. So where are you now? At the bottom of the scale, there's the hobo or the bum on the street that makes no money, that just lays around all day. And at the top of the scale, you have people like Richard Branson, multimillionaire, whose teacher, by the way, said that he was either going to be a billionaire or he was going to end up in prison. She didn't know which one. Are you here? Or are you here? Or maybe you're here. But here's the secret. You always need to be here. Remember I said to be a top producer, you have to think like a top producer, you have to act like a top producer, you have to dress like a top producer, and you have to be a top producer before you become a top producer. You need to come from the wish fulfilled. A winning attitude. Do more than they expect. Under promise and over deliver. Communicate all that you do. This is so important. It's better to communicate more than not enough because they don't see what you do. They see you getting the big commission check. They see you driving a fancy car. But other than that, they see nothing. Tell them. Be worthy of their trust, and it'll pay off in referrals. The law of compensation, and we'll wrap up with this, clearly states that the amount of money you will earn will always be in exact ratio to the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing you. Is there a need for realtors? Yes. Can you do it? Yes. Is there a difficulty in replacing you? People are trying. But here's the secret. Focus on your ability. Every day, get better. Start applying what you're learning. Learn more. Apply more. And then there'll always be a need, and it will be really hard to replace you. And with that, I bid you great success. Any questions? No questions? Okay. Pull out a piece of paper and a pen and let's take a test. Pop quiz. Let's see in the chat. Okay. Um, Kristen, are you there?
I am.
Okay. We finished right on time.
We did. Thank you, Roger. That was a great class. I'll get the recording up today.
All right, super. Bye, all.
All right, guys, have a great day.